So I want to dive into your interactive activity that you had with your students. What was your goal for the activity?
Well, I saw it in a PD, and it seemed like it kept everybody engaged and made sure everybody was working with lifting and dry erase boards and having to work together to answer their questions. So my goal was the way how I had them paired, my goal was that it would be at least one student that was, some groups they were on level with one another, some groups needed extra help, some groups needed more, some groups had it where there were lower levels with higher levels, and in that way they could kind of work together. My goal, honestly, was just to see if that was something I could incorporate more often, and if it would help.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
So you did have a strategy for pairing your students, and so your ultimate goal was really just testing the strategy. Testing
the strategy and trying to pair those kids that need more help with kids that are stronger, and those kids that were on level together, more of my bubble kids, having them work together. Just to kind of see how I can manipulate and move the groups and see how each group works together.
Okay, okay. And that's fine too. I just want there to be a stronger alignment to what they practice on, so that it could prepare them to work independently. So their independent practice is of a higher level like this is, with a lot of writing. It would be good for them to actually see what that level of writing looks like through the text that they read when they're doing the interactive activity. And because they are paired and they're working with a partner, it definitely would be appropriate to have a more challenging activity because they're not working alone. So it would allow them to struggle with someone. And because you paired them well with a stronger partner versus a more challenging partner, it will allow, it just gives that task that makes sense to be for two people to work together.
But I actually, on that guided note sheet, on the back side, they had their own independent practice. It was using the elevator, the story of the elevator, and it had the 3 questions. So that's kind of how that portion was their independent practice, and then we worked on it. Then they did this as their homework. So would that passage still be strong enough? I only had 3 questions. So would I incorporate more questions with that? Would that beef up the rigor?
I saw that when I was in there on someone's desk, and I thought that it was fine. I think the point I'm trying to make is that you don't want to skimp on the guided practice or the interactive activity. If the independent is going to be challenging, and if the homework is going to be challenging, let that guided practice be challenging too. Let expose them to as much complex text, vocabulary as you can, because the more that they can grapple with it, and especially when they're working with a partner, it doesn't need to be easier if they're working with a partner, because if 2 brains are working together,
it needs to be more rigorous.
Yes, it needs to be more rigorous. So, so your strategies very spot on. The techniques, I appreciated seeing that you were using new learning in the lesson. So it's just in the choice in the text and what you're going to use with your guided practice.
Choice in text.
And when we're having our PLC, that's just something, if you see that someone is presenting or offering an activity or a text that doesn't follow along with what we're discussing, that's a good time for you to challenge that or recommend a higher text for rigor and for challenge. So based on what we just discussed, what do you think your next action step would be?
Definitely pulling out a higher level text and with my guided practice, using those level 2s and level 3s questions. And with that, I'll definitely try to give more time for them to kind of work hands-on. I just don't know the next steps I would do for interactive, because I do want to do more interactive board strategies like that, but I don't know how to time it in order, for me to be able to still do things like that. Would I possibly have to change the activity that I do?
I don't think so. I think that you could have used the exact same activity with something like this.
So just give it to them hard copy. So I should do hard copy, And then like have a copy on the board and everything,
And you could
but
use-
hard copy,
You could always use Google Classroom,
true.
so that you don't have to make copies and the students will have it right there in front of them. You could have a timer on the board,
Yes.
which also would fall into our test-taking strategies
Yes, ma'am.
of having them work on their stamina. So you could have a timer visible so that they
Yes.
would know. And then also you could, if you feel necessary, have an area for them to annotate. Once you have given them the steps of how they identify the irony,
Yes.
that you could have them start annotating as they are reading
Okay.
the paragraph.
So maybe what I could do to take it to the next level, maybe I could possibly have like a hint station or like a lifeline or something that could go along with it.
You could if you feel that that's necessary. Your students didn't, to me, they did not appear as if they needed that today.
Okay.
They were well with the content. It's just that you want to give them the highest challenge
Okay.
that they can get. And it's okay if they do struggle. It's okay if they struggle because you've given them the tools that they needed. They seem to have been able to identify the different types. So next time you do it, just give them something that is more difficult for
Okay.
them to grapple. Okay, so
How would I like run that out?
that was the code call. He was narrating the hands.
Okay, so I did it the right way.
Right, so I think that in that particular scenario, the teacher asked the question
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't call on a student yet. And several students started raising their hands and he said, I see one hand up. Okay, now I see 5. 6 people know the answer. So he was building the momentum
Okay.
to get those reluctant students to start looking for the correct answer and then wanting them to join in that culture of being a
Yes.
hand raiser with the correct answer. So yes, so he was building the momentum and that strategy is called narrating hands.
Okay.
So he's saying out loud who he's seeing raising their hands. And then offering little bits of praise about those students who are looking for the correct answer to build the momentum for others. Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Well, it was a great lesson.
Thank you.
I'm very happy with the growth that I'm seeing.
Thank you.
And I will be seeing you next week.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.